A member of the UN Security Council blew up a Ukrainian hydroelectric plant. At the same time, the UN is celebrating the Language Day of this member, which apparently has never confirmed its legal stay at the UN. This is all you need to know about the reaction of the major international organization to the most recent Russian terrorist attack in Ukraine. The IAEA is also concerned from afar. On the night of June 6, the Russians blew up the Kakhovka hydropower plant. Water from the reservoir began to spill rapidly. The approximate height of the wave was 4 to 5 meters. The water flooded dozens of settlements and washed away entire houses. The zoo in Nova Kakhovka also was flooded. Most of its inhabitants died. However, Russians have no limit of cruelty. When rescuers tried to help people leave flooded areas, the occupiers shelled Kherson with artillery. At least 2 rescuers were injured. Loud explosions were also heard during the video address of the head of the Kherson military administration, Alexander Prokurin.
I'm addressing the residents on the left bank. Please do everything possible to ensure your safety and save your life. Leave the dangerous area immediately.
The President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, convened an emergency meeting of the National Security and Defense Council. The blow-up of the hydroelectric power plant is already being called probably the biggest disaster in Europe in the 21st century.
Russia destroyed the Kakhovska dam, which is probably the biggest man-made disaster in Europe in recent decades and endangering the lives of thousands of civilians. This is a terrible war crime. The only way to stop Russia, the biggest terrorist of the 21st century, is to drive it out of Ukraine.
Moreover, the deliberate dam disruption is a direct violation of the Geneva Convention, and this is a war crime.
Installations and structures containing dangerous forces, namely dams and nuclear power plants, should not become objects of attack, even if such objects are military. Such an attack can cause the release of dangerous forces and the following heavy casualties among the civilian population.
The Russians fired rockets at the residential areas. Oil depots were shelled. They shelled the territory of the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, in Zaporizhia. They captured the exclusion zone of the Chernobyl NPP. And it is precisely why approximately 180,000 square kilometers of Ukraine were mined. It's like half of Germany, a third of France, or 6 Belgiums. This is the biggest artificial, intentional environmental crime of our time. But unfortunately, this is typical crime for Russia. It is to mention that, for example, British intelligence and the Ukrainian president warned about such an act of terrorism, and it was back in November 2022. President Zelensky appealed on November 9, 2022, 2 days before the liberation of Kherson.
Now I want once again warn everyone in Moscow who makes relevant decisions. Your attempt to blow up the Kakhovska hydro power plant, to flood our territory and dehydrate the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant will mean that you're declaring war on the whole world. Think what will happen to you then.
Leaders of influential international institutions also reacted to the terrorist attack. Representatives of Energoatom are closely monitoring the water level at the Zaporizhia NPP because the reactors need to be cooled. The IAEA announced that there is a critical water level beyond which the reactors won't be able to cool down. In general, together with Kakhovka hydropower plant, the Russians completely destroyed the reputation of many international security and cooperation organizations, because in case of cataclysm on the Zaporizhia NPP, they won't even have time to get deeply concerned. In addition, the detonation of the station is a water shortage in the occupied Crimea and partial cease of land irrigation in the Kherson, Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions. As a result, the loss of the grain harvest. However, this applies to the most occupied territories, where the Russians used to steal Ukrainian grain and then to sell it to African countries, for example, to their partner Eritrea.